Hey guys, Chapadong here, and in lieu of a long typed out post that probably won't save on Discord anyway, and in lieu of writing an article of any kind of strategy, it may be better just to make a video here and try and keep it, 5 to 10 minutes long, regarding tournament strategy in NFL because I've been doing a lot of back testing this week. Um, Running all sorts of different formations of NFL stacks, all sorts of games across all of the weeks of last year, and trying to find patterns, trying to find things that we can simplify and really and truly get down to what we all want to do, which is just push a button and win. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do in the MLB stacking systems. We'll do it again in hockey. We've got a couple of things that have come up over the years in terms of statistics to look at, like K score and SOGBS in hockey, and some other things that we've hit on that really do work and help out. NFL is fine. It just is a shorter sample size. You only get 16 or 17 shots at it per year if you're only playing the main slates. And you can miss. You can miss all year, honestly. And the reason why is because you have to hit a stack. You have to hit the correct stack, and you have to hit it hard. One thing that this back testing is showing is the recreational NFL player uh, understands quarterback wide receiver stacks, but then they stop. They don't stack good games hard enough. And we get our leverage when we do what other players are not willing to do. I don't know if it's a mentality of fear of missing out, where I've got to get a piece of that game, and I've got to get a piece of that game, and I've got to get that player. I don't want to miss out on that player, or what it is. But you've got to be able to really make yourself nervous that you've gone too far and catch those good games. They don't come up too often. Bigger slates have bigger games more often than small slates because, again, like baseball, when you've only got 3 games on a slate, the odds of a team going off and exploding just aren't as good as a 12 or 13 game slate, just by the very nature of we've got more offenses going, right? It's just a numbers game. When it comes to game stacks, usually one side's better than the other. The shootouts do happen, but it favors, one side over the other. But that other side you're not using does usually offer a couple of good run backs. And that's why we talk in terms of 2x1, 3x1, 3x2 onslaught type stacks, where a 2x0 would be quarterback, wide receiver, and that's it. 2x1 would be quarterback, wide receiver, and then somebody from the other team. 3x1 would be quarterback, 2 pass catchers, and then one from the other team. And then a 3x2 is obviously quarterback, 2 pass catchers, and then 2 from the other team. And you can go even more than that if you want to. And sometimes a game will reward that. Most of the time they won't. But I'm finding that the 2x0s and 2x1s are generally playing it a little bit too safe. Because if that was good enough to do really, really well in some giant MME like a nickel or a quarter or the milli maker, what you're finding is that the teams that went farther and did 3x1 or 3x2 generally do better than the 2x1s. That's telling me that people stop short. People don't completely sell out. They don't commit to the game stack. And that is going to give us leverage when we do and when we find the right game. Understand that that leads into another area, which is taking stands. And if you're playing a 20 max type of, like if you're playing a 3 max tournament, you maybe make 3 different stacks. Maybe Dallas, maybe Seattle, maybe Cleveland, maybe whatever, and then you're done. And you run it back with each one. You're trying to pick the game you think is going to explode. Okay? The 20 max, maybe you can get 3 or 4 or 5 stacks of games that you've kind of picked out. And then you're trying to create variations, multiple variations in that stack. Like let's say you like Dallas and Seattle and Cleveland. Well, and let's say you add in Arizona, that's 4. Well, you can only get 5 combos of each of those 4 stacks before you're out of lineups in a 20 max tournament. So you can't try and do 20 stacks, one lineup each, because then you're going to get the wrong stack sometimes, right? You might get the right game, but you got the wrong stack. You're going to want several shots of that stack to go off, to catch the nuts, if you will. And that's going to come from getting multiple runs at that same stack. Because if you were correct on Cleveland, let's say, you want to not hit it with just Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt, and OBJ. You may want to hit it with Baker, Jarvis Landry, and OBJ, and Baker and Chubb and OBJ, and Baker and Chubb and Landry, and Peoples Jones, or Hooper, or whatever. You got all these different combinations that you're trying to do. And that gives you a better chance, and you're running it back with, say, if it's against the Cowboys, you're running it back with Amari Cooper, or you're running it back with CeeDee Lamb, or you're running it back with Dalton Schultz, or Ezekiel Elliott, or whatever. You've just got so many combinations within there that even 4 or 5 combos aren't necessarily going to hit correctly, but they're going to give you a better chance than just the one combination. So we can spread out too thin. If we try to pick every single game and every single quarterback and get at least one stack of him going, you're going to spread yourself out too thin in a 20 max. And you're not going to be able to really give yourself a chance to really hit it unless you get lucky. Everything requires a little bit of luck, I mean, including the big game stacks. And kind of where I'll go with that, spreading out too thin versus making choices. And when you play a full 150 MME, yeah, you can spread out to, I don't know, 10 or 12 quarterbacks. You can't spread out to 25 quarterbacks, though. It's just not going to work. So you have to use, and I'll get to the actual back testing here in a minute, but what I'm getting at is, how do we determine those stacks? Because you have to hit a stack that week. You can't, if there was a stack, a team stack or a game stack worth hitting, if you're going to do damage in those big tournaments, you have to hit it. You have to find it and you have to hit it. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good week. You're just not going to have a good week. You might eke out a tiny bit of profit if you got lucky. But generally speaking, you're going to put in, say, $25 worth of quarters in 100 lineups. You're going to get back $15. You're going to lose 10. That's just the way that's going to go. So our Millie Maker criteria, our Shark Chronicles article, is a must read every week because it shows you mathematically where those go. And I can tell you what I'm settling on right now is I'm going to get excited, and I'll see if I can go into DFS Army here for a second just to pull up the Domination Station NFL Optimizer and see what that does for us. I don't care, DraftKings, FanDuel, it doesn't matter. And we'll go to the main because we're going to look at these games. I'm wanting close spreads and high totals, right? That's not a secret. That's not front page news. But let's look at the games I would target. Anything over about 45 points, 46 points. So this one would be, with Denver would be very, very borderline. Can it shoot out? Probably. Denver should score a lot of points. So maybe you want to include them in part of your stacks, okay? But depending on how many teams you're going to stack, like if you're in a 20 max, you might not take Denver, right? But if you're in 150 max, maybe you will take a piece of Denver, okay? Buffalo versus Dolphins. High total, close spread, yes. If it's less than a 7-point spread, we want pieces of it, okay? And that shows in the Millie Maker. 2.5 over 45. Okay, again, borderline. But you might want both sides. You might want either side of that game. 12.5 points is over a touchdown. 48 points is great, but over, yeah, you probably would just want the Cleveland side of this. And even at that, you've got to understand the odds of Baker going off are probably slim. That's probably more of a Chubb fest, right? 43, not worth looking at, except in very rare occasions when it goes off. And not many people will be in that game anyway. Not worth looking at the New Orleans game, although that one does have some potential. I mean, I think we could all agree that New Orleans and even Carolina with Darnold and his receivers, that game has some potential. But under 45, it just doesn't land in the Millie Maker winning lineups often enough for me to want to consider. Okay, I can exit out. I've got to make some choices somewhere. I've got to make some stands and be all right with it and live with my decisions. So that would be a decision I would make. I would not stack that game. I would stack this game, both sides probably. I would stack this game. I don't know. This one shows up that it has Millie potential because it's over 46 total. You might run out Big Ben if you think he's got potential. If you don't think he has potential anymore, get out of there. Don't even use it, right? I mean, I don't know. He's at home. Maybe he's as good once as he ever was, and that's what it takes to win the Millie. You know, whatever. This game's definitely worth stacking. This one probably not. 12 points is way too big. You may only stack the Tom Brady side of it because, to be quite honest with you, and I know that Matt Ryan's probably having a pretty good day if they make it a game and keep up, but this is indicating that's not even going to be a game. You know, but Tom Brady doesn't tend to run the ball a lot. He likes to spread it around and throw it. West Coast offense almost uses short passing and stuff with some of his guys to control the possessions, and he does a good job with it. And with all that freaking running back disaster going on in that game, they don't really have a bell cow workhorse back like a Nick Chubb that they're going to throw in there and just grind clock. They don't have a God. Who was the guy? Why am I blanking on the guy that they used to have that we used to talk about in New England. Anywho, uh, Dallas and the Chargers. This game's gonna be very popular, right? And so this one, under 7 points is qualifying. So that gives you 5, 6 games to stack either side of. A couple of games like a Tom Brady, maybe a Baker Mayfield that you could stack too. That makes sense. These guys are going to score points. So you've got your stuff limited down to probably 10 or 12 offenses right there. And then you have to get the correct one, and you got to get the correct pieces to it. And if only one of these is going to go off, say it's, I don't know, the Chargers, they blow up Dallas. Well, then you better be in there with multiple shots, multiple stacks, multiple combinations, or you're not going to have a good week. Which goes to what I was back testing, which was every week of the year, 2x1, 3x1, 3x2 stacks. And I had a good week in week 1 of 2020, and I would have had a good week in week 4 of 2020. But in week 4 of 2020 was right before Dak got hurt. And that game in, I want to say Cleveland, just exploded. And any piece of it you could possibly get would be great. The run back with OBJ was important, but the Dak stack is what did it. Okay, the Dak stack with Amari and CD and whatever else did it. That was the key. And if you had that with like a Joe Mixon in the Cincinnati game, you really had something, and you really, really, really had good days in those big GPPs. But if you only hit that stack once or twice and didn't get the lucky combination, you still did not win that week, even though you had the right stack. So you've got to hit the right stack with multiple pieces to it. That's the key. And that's what we're trying to do. And I ran that multiple different ways and had some winning weeks and some losing streak weeks because on that exact same week. And I had some where I won hundreds of dollars and some where I still lost $7 or $8. And the reason why was because I didn't hit that stack hard enough, which told me that when we spread out across 10 or 12 different offenses, we're going to get 1 or 2 key stacks, and we're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 combinations of them. So you can't limit yourself again to just one of this and one of that and one of this and one of that with the whole FOMO thing. You've got to take a stand. You've got to get in there, and you've got to have multiple combinations of that stack and have it go off. And that's the hard part. You got to have the multiple pieces of it, but you also have to have it go off. If it doesn't do that, you probably aren't winning that week. You're probably not netting a gain that week. You need to set your expectations accordingly. You need to play way, way underneath your bankroll. And I'm talking 1%, maybe 2% of your overall bankroll in MME, or you risk going bust because you just have to cover these bases week after week after week after week after week and realize you're only going to get 16 or 17 shots. You can go a year, 2 years, 3 years of NFL doing this and not get great results. But one day it will happen. If you keep focused on those Millie Maker criteria and getting those pieces of those stacks and learning how to manipulate the domination station and learning how to get in there, it will happen for you. I don't know if it'll happen this week or if it won't happen for 2 years, but it will happen for you. Baseball's a different animal. Hockey, NBA, whatever, are daily sports. So within 17 slates, you've only gone half of a month. So across 6 months, you've got yourself 12 times the number of chances that you got in a football season. So put things in perspective and understand the math and understand the short samples that we're running on and lower your expectations a little bit. Treat this as a hobby. Treat this as something entertaining and hope for the best. Don't think you're going to turn pro on 3 weeks worth of work. It doesn't work that way. But you can strike it. You can hit lightning this week. And so let's keep practicing. Let's keep talking. Let's keep building. Let's keep digging into these systems. As I keep back testing, I'll keep reporting what I'm finding. But I'm going to tell you 2x1, 3x1, 3x2 stacks. Hit the right games, close spreads, high totals. Hit both sides of them. Maybe consider the bigger favorites, like the Tom Brady's this week or whatnot, and take your chances. But hit those stacks and hit them very, very hard and hope the game explodes. If it does, you're set up very, very well. And I'll be back in another week or so with another run and another report, and we'll just kind of see what we land on this year. Peace out, homies. Hopefully that helped you guys get your mind in the right place, and we'll talk to you soon.